It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It is January 14th, 2024. It is Sunday night here. I want to welcome you to The Sit Down. I am Don Tony, as always. I want to thank you very much for joining me. For those that have not tuned into any other show this week since last Sunday or have not also been on my social media, I want to thank each and every one of you for the kind words. Last Sunday was awful. And I know some of you saw yesterday, I picked up my dogs, my wife's, our dog's remains on Friday. And on the way home, I get a phone call that my brother's dog died of a heart attack, 8 years old. Unbelievable. So the last 7 days have been kind of shangada. But as we always say, these shows are a release, not only for you, but for me as well. Gets our mind off of, and sometimes you kind of have that guilty feeling that, shouldn't you be grieving? You should not be laughing. You should not be talking about fun things. But no, I mean, I personally think when we lose loved ones, parents, friends, pets, of course we grieve. And of course, we'll miss them and they'll never truly be forgotten. But I also don't think that they're looking down on you and saying, you cannot laugh. You cannot have fun. Believe it or not, in my family, and I know it's an Italian tradition, I'm sure it's a tradition in a lot of other nationalities and religions as well. But, after family members are buried, the funeral, the wake, everybody goes out to eat. And it's somber, but it's more of like a celebration. I'll never forget when my grandmother died on my mom's side, on my dad's side, my grandfather. After the burial, we all went out to eat. And it's kind of a little tradition. So we have not gone out to eat as of yet. But anyway, I know you're here because we want to talk some wrestling and maybe a little bit more. And what do we do on the sit down? Now, I don't want to just say Sundays because before I even get into the show, make sure it doesn't matter if you're a member or not, doesn't matter if you're a subscriber or if you even on the video side of things. You got to go to the community section on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Don Tony, and vote. Vote what day and time you want this show to continue in 2 weeks because the show will continue. And there will be special episodes here and there, the Don Tony Show, where needed. But with Kevin and I returning to Monday nights weekly and doing 2-3 hour bangers each week, it's going to take up some of the other shows as well. But the sit down is very, very popular. Always get awesome feedback for it. And, your voting is going to determine where this show goes 2 weeks from today. There's choices like Friday night after SmackDown, Saturday at noon, Saturday night, Sunday. It's either going to be Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So you got to vote, and we'll go from there. So what is the sit down? Very simple. I came up with it. It's the lazy show. I come up with nothing. You tell me what you want to talk about. Now, obviously, the only way you could do that is if you're live and hanging out in the chat room. Super chats are never required, but since they do help pay the bills and sometimes buy me coffee, they will get VIP treatment all the time. And sometimes we get our friends they send questions before we go live. Sometimes so I could do a little research. Sometimes because they want to be first for the conversation. And that starts with tonight. And I think it's a topic that a lot of you want to talk about as well. Let's give a shout out to Mikey Ravello, who sent in a 10 spot. Thank you, Mikey. DT, what's your thoughts on all the former WWE releases and Jack Perry's debuts Saturday at TNA and New Japan? All right, for those that don't know yet or may have not heard about everybody that appeared Saturday night, I have the list in front of me. Nick Nemeth, who we all know is Dolph Ziggler, showed up in TNA. In fact, I did see the clip where he went at it with Moose for a little while. I'll say this. I'm a huge Dolph Ziggler fan. He's definitely a future Hall of Famer. He turned chicken shit and turned it into chicken salad. Between the caddy gimmick and the Spirit Squad, and even when he first came in, I still remember to this day, hi, how you doing? Dolph Ziggler. Anybody remember those segments? For some weird reason, I always remembered those segments. Nick Nemeth has turned chicken shit into chicken salad multiple times. But it was interesting because, Moose wins the championship yesterday at Hard to Kill. And, a few people show up on the rampway to celebrate with him. And then Nick Nemeth's name and intro shows up on TNA's Titantron. And Moose is looking down the rampway, and, as you expect, here comes Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler, on the opposite side of the ring. And he's in the ring, and Moose's back is facing him, and he's getting pumped up. Nick Nemeth's getting pumped up, and, you figure, okay, soon as Moose turns around, he's going to super kick the shit out of him. It almost felt like he froze because Moose senses that somebody's behind him, and he turns around, and Nick Nemeth, he's like, pumping up, and it stops. And they have this awkward stare down, and then Moose stands there and is like, kick me. Not intentionally, but, it was a little wonky. But, hey, seeing Nick Nemeth back is great. Personally, I would have preferred him in AEW because I think AEW needs, listen, I know a lot of you are going to say they don't need WWE cast-offs. Dolph Ziggler is not a cast-off. But the guy can work, and the guy understands entertainment, and the guy actually could cut a tremendous promo when needed. And I think, that aspect, like Nick Nemeth has the talent and he has the charisma. It's not even like he could be comedic when needed, but I think he would have definitely filled a better void in AEW than TNA, but I'm not complaining. He's back on the TV screen. Let's see where it goes. I'm fine with that. Top Dollar debuting in TNA. He's cute because he's on social media early in the day with this play on words. Yo, just like this and just like that. I'm hard to kill. And how's about you just shut the fuck up and surprise everybody and then give us the videos and stuff. But hey, it's nice to see Top Dollar still have that itch in wrestling. When we saw Rick Boogs with Chris Van Vliet, I don't think you're going to see me wrestle much in 2023. I think that's more because he's realizing that, not a lot of indie promotions want to see him, play guitar. And, he's not a bad talent. He might be able to work in his hometown, wherever that is, but I don't think Rick Boogs is in big demand. Mustafa Ali showing up in New Japan. I think we kind of expected that. I like it. I have no problem with it. That leaves us with Dana Brooke and Jack Perry. What was Dana Brooke's name? Eve d'Elegance? Sounds like a Cadillac. And I think it probably is based on an old Cadillac. I used to have a Coupe de Ville, d'Elegance. Some people think it's a Tony Storm ripoff. I think she's Taya Valkyrie on Wish. I'm going to keep an open mind for Dana Brooke. We've crapped on her a lot over the years. For reasons that are a little complicated. We can't just say, oh, because she sucked. It's much more than that. But she wants to remain in wrestling. Maybe a different environment, maybe less pressure is what will help repair her. She's a very likable person. People that I know that, not close friends with her, but are friendly with her, say she's a doll. But I don't watch wrestling because you're a doll. I don't watch wrestling because you're a good person. I watch wrestling because you entertain me. And honestly, she could come out being valeted in a car. She could come out wearing this beautiful robe. She could come out looking like Toni Storm, looking like a Taya Valkyrie. She could come out looking emaciated. Some people said that she looked like she lost a lot of weight. I don't know about that. To me, I look at it like this. As of right now, if I buy a can of Spam in a supermarket 3 months ago, and the Spam tastes like shit, it smells like shit, it tastes like shit, it looks like shit. And 3 months later, I take that can of Spam and I put a piece of cheese on it. And I call it Spam d'Elegance. And it looks awesome. I could barbecue it. Yeah, everything tastes good on a barbecue. All right. You might, smells okay. Looks okay. It's Spam. So you can make Dana Brooke look like the Elegance. You can make her look like a crack addict. It's still Dana Brooke. I'm giving her a chance. Hey, Les, Spam is not bad. Me and my friends, when we used to go camping, we used to eat Spam all the time. Spam and eggs, not bad. Spam is not bad. And Spam is keto. So I'm going to give her a chance. That leaves us with Jack Perry. Mikey, you're getting your $10 worth, my friend. That leaves us Jack Perry. See Dana Brooke. You could put a beard. You could grow lots of pubic hair. You're still Jack Perry. You may look like you're tough, lumberjack-esque. You could look sinister. Hey, if I get divorced and the divorce is already final, and there's nothing I can do about it, I could turn around and do this all day long with my divorce papers. I could do this all day long. Look, everybody, I got divorce papers, and look, I just tore them up. I'm a tough guy. I got a Brillo pad on my face. Plus, I know Tony Khan's contracts are very simplified, but they're not, like that. I saw all these people, he tore up the AEW contract. Jack Perry is a dick to CM Punk. Jack Perry is a dick to Old School. Jack Perry is a dick to many people. Jack Perry is not a dick to Tony Khan. Jack Perry is not a dick to AEW management behind the scenes. If this guy got paid until the end of his contract, we just had this conversation, I think, a week or two ago about Jack Perry. And I'll admit it. If AEW had no intention on re-signing him, why didn't they send a message to the fucking locker room and fire him too? Why didn't they send a message to the locker room when not tolerating this shit? Scapegoat? Is Jack Perry a scapegoat? Jack Perry, you could come out with it taped to your head, taped to your dick, tattoo it to your chest, do a Mike Tyson, do it a Rock, tape that all over your arm, tattoo it. You're not a scapegoat. You're an asshole with a beard now. Wear the crooked Ray-Bans. The only way you're going to get over is if you fucking kill your body, make yourself bleed like a pig, or grow up. I know what some people are saying right now. DT, you just said that you watch wrestling not because someone's a good person, or the opposite, because someone's a bad person. Jack Perry don't entertain me. He never did. I didn't care for the Jungle Boy stuff. When you have a bad attitude and then it reflects in the ring. See, Dana Brooke, here's the difference. Dana Brooke is a good person. Everybody says it. But that good personality is not what makes her better in the ring. If Jack Perry just looks at wrestling and, says, oh, I'm going to break this fucking glass anyway. And, and I know this is history and I know we're in front of 80,000 fans. And I know, I'm pretty much the first match when you look back at the record books and all that's on my mind is not making history, but throwing it in CM Punk's face. You don't respect wrestling. And honestly, when you take that, and I already don't like him, and I don't think he's a particularly great wrestler at all, like the only way that he could come out is looking like a thug, looking like, street clothes, beard, disheveled, scapegoat. He's still Jack Perry. He's still Jack Perry. There ain't no way Jack Perry is going to embarrass AEW like that. And let me tell you something. If Jack Perry went that rogue on AEW, something tells me Tony Khan or somebody would open their mouth. That's my take on everybody from yesterday. Okay, let's head on over to the chat. By the way, the Discord page is up. Make sure you sign up, because if you don't sign up, you will not be able to get the shows live once we start in 2 weeks on the 29th of January. For those asking, I am updating the YouTube channel member sections this week. I will be posting a new video letting everybody know how both tiers are going to work. And the only reason, I want to make this clear, the only reason why the DTKC show, when it comes to YouTube, full episodes is only going to be channel members only, is because Kev is not a YouTuber. And I'm not going to put the shows on YouTube and try to make money and then not give him his share. So we both agreed that, the shows are not going to stream live on YouTube, but when they're there, whoever wants it, whatever comes in, I'm giving Kev half, straight down the middle. That's the reason. Otherwise, it wouldn't go up on YouTube at all. The whole idea of us doing audio only is to get back to number one. Have all our stats in one place. If we're going to skew it again, then, there's got to be a good reason for it. Patreon, nothing changes. Everything stays there, and everything is strong there. So, by the way, we'll shout out some of our patrons in a little bit. The head of the table, James Campbell with a 5-spot. Thank you, James. With the talk of Roman and The Rock, possibly at WrestleMania 40. No! What do I think the match at WrestleMania 41 would be? Could it be a year-long build, much like Cena and The Rock? I got news for you. If The Rock and Roman Reigns does not happen at Elimination Chamber, I think The Rock and Roman Reigns will happen at WrestleMania 41. Cody is going to finish the story. Listen, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't mind admitting it. You're not going to take 2 years of Cody, 2 years of Dusty, 2 years of finishing his story and flush it because The Rock becomes available for WrestleMania. Oh, the Peacock subscriptions. They still make more money on Saudi Arabia. You're not going to go to Cody, say, listen, Cody, Dwayne, they already sold their tickets for Mania. Mania is not going to take a hit if Dwayne Johnson's not in the main event. The Rock is not a part-timer, is not a full-timer. You're not going to take a plan that you've built and flush it because of The Rock. The only scenario that I would accept with The Rock at WrestleMania 40, the only scenario I would accept is if it was a three-way. Because if Cody Rhodes still pins Roman Reigns and he defeats The Rock too, that's pretty good stat to have. I would accept Cody versus The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. That's the only consolation. Listen, I'll give you a great example. Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan. Everybody remembers the Yes Movement. Nobody ever thought Daniel Bryan would get pushed as hard as he did, and the fans forced it. WWE almost threw a monkey wrench in it with Dave Bautista, complete with his skinny jeans. And what happened? Bryan Danielson won a three-way. Do we look back at Daniel Bryan's win and say, well, it was a three-way? Was it one-on-one? No, we don't care. Daniel Bryan won. So Cody Rhodes could face Roman Reigns and The Rock in a three-way, and that would be fine. That would be fine. Then you could set up WrestleMania 41, The Rock versus Roman Reigns. Easy peasy, right? Why would you blow your load and do The Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania this year, screw up Cody, and then you might have to spend another year or SummerSlam to finish the story? No, the story has to be finished at WrestleMania. It has to be finished at WrestleMania. When you watch a movie and you know what the end game is intended to be, the destination, whatever, play a video game, anything, you know what the destination is. You're not going to get this close to the end. And then all of a sudden, no, there's an update to the video game. Let me download it. And then we're like, the fuck? I got to now go here? Now I got to play an extra 3 chapters? You're not going to do that. So the only thing I would accept is Cody versus Roman versus The Rock. If they tweak it. But I think The Rock and Roman Reigns, WrestleMania 41. That's what I would do. That's the year-long build that I would take. And you know what? I think fans would love it. No pressure on Roman. No pressure on The Rock. You go a full year. Little digs, we know a year from now what's on the horizon. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Shout out to Raul Harris with the 5 spot. What's my all-time Royal Rumble return and debut? Well, Royal Rumble debut. Well, the return is easy. John Cena, 2006. I've told this story numerous times. And I don't say it so people could be like, oh, DT, you think you're cool. You hang out with wrestlers. No. I say it for a different reason. In 2006, I think it was 2006, we watched the Royal Rumble in my house. I had a whole bunch of indie wrestlers at my house. Not going to name drop who they are. Most of you know who they are. Some still wrestling today, GCW especially. And the reason why I say that aspect of it, 2008, was it 2008? Okay, 2008. Thank you, Mark. 2008, not 2006. Why does that sound wrong? No, that is right. Because I was working Frank Goodman in 2006. 2008, when he came out and nobody expected him, even though he was number 30, when he came out, everybody in my place popped for it. Everybody popped for it. Wrestlers were like little kids, wrestling fans. Everybody popped like little fans. We all got a pop out of it. So John Cena's return from injury is my choice. As far as a debut, I'm probably forgetting quite a few of them over the years, but recently I would probably go with AJ Styles. Probably go with AJ Styles. Listen, it was kind of uneventful. When the music hit, you remember Roman Reigns, he's looking like squinting, like, who is it? And AJ Styles came out like this. Like, it wasn't like, like the lights go off and they go on. You're like, oh my God. He just came out and then people like, oh shit. It wasn't like a Chris Jericho Monday Night Raw debut in 1999. You know what I mean? Like, you don't usually get that at the Royal Rumble, but I'd probably go with AJ for now. All right. Tristan is asking me my favorite Hall of Fame speech. Non-wrestler, Bob Uecker. Wrestler / manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan. And they're both comedic in a sense, but they both clicked with me. There's some awesome ones over the years. Scott Hall's, Ultimate Warriors, others. Even back in the 90s, some of the Hall of Fame speeches in the 90s, nobody ever really paid attention to, but those two come to mind right away. Can't look back at 30 years of Hall of Fames and start thinking of each speech like that, but that who comes to mind right away. What's up, Gabriella? Hope you're having a good evening. Much love to everyone out there. Oh, yes, Conan for Rey Mysterio was spectacular. Fucking loved it, man. It was a little bit of closure, in my opinion, for Conan, because Conan was not very well liked, especially by WWE management over the years. He came back and, my God, you know, he killed it. Very, very happy to see Conan do that. So Conan was awesome. Dusty Rhodes is good. There's so many guys. There's so many when you think about it. But I kind of like to laugh at Hall of Fame speeches. And unfortunately, for a lot of years, they get cut very, very short. So you really, sometimes it's not fair to some of the wrestlers who don't have the greatest Hall of Fame speeches. One of the ones that I cringed, but I still watch like it's a train wreck, was Mr. T. Take a shot every time he brings up his mama. But you can't help but, he can't help it. Triple H absolutely will go in by himself. It's kind of funny how Triple H is not in the Hall of Fame yet by himself. You know, when we talk about who should be in the Hall of Fame by themselves, nobody ever, I mean, very, very rare does anybody ever say Triple H. Triple H, Hall of Fame, all by himself. Does he point to himself? He's got to do that. You know that, right? He's got to literally like stand in the camera and go like this, like point to himself. All right. Shout out to Benjamin. How telling is it that so many of the released WWE wrestlers went to TNA and not AEW, knowing that AEW is a sinking ship? AEW is not a sinking ship. Guys, there's so much money. There is so much money in the guy's pocket. It's not a sinking ship. You know, if he loses the TV deal and they can't find a new home and they get sued tremendously and shit starts getting exposed and people start leaving in droves, you know, it's not a sinking ship. I know it's a fun thing to say, and I know there's some people out there that are making a living off of doom and gloom with AEW, but AEW is not going anywhere. You look at the toxicity of social media, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you want to go, and then you see some of the antics in AEW, like, you really think that cancel culture will ever go after AEW? They're not. For some places, this is their home. As far as so many people going to TNA over AEW, you're talking about 3 people. 3. Nick Nemeth just wants to work part-time right now. Dana Brooke, honestly, do you want Dana Brooke in AEW right now? I mean, seriously, like, some people who root for Dana Brooke would want it, but does she help the women's division? I'm not sure about that. And Top Dollar, you know, it's not a sinking ship. All right. Let's see. We're spreading it around. Mark Hicks, what is Shane Douglas's legacy in pro wrestling? Does he deserve a Hall of Fame spot? He definitely deserves a Hall of Fame spot. You know, Shane Douglas, obviously, I have a preference. He's one of my favorite ECW guys of all time. I got to be friendly with him. I loved the conversations I had with him, even when he was in XPW. Appreciate that he thought of me with the hardcore homecoming stuff and wanted me to be involved with it. Putting that all aside, he's had a decent career, but you put him in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame? Yes. Do you put him in the WWE Hall of Fame? Not right now. Not right now. Shane Douglas had a great career and a very important part of ECW. No question. ECW in 94, 95, especially with him, even in the latter part of the 90s, but then he would go to WCW. But, you know, he's not a Hall of Famer for WWE's Hall of Fame anytime soon, in my opinion. I'm just being honest. I wonder if anybody's ever asked him on his podcast, do you think you deserve to be in the WWE Hall of Fame? I mean, what wrestler is going to say, no, I don't think so? You know, like, I don't expect him to say no, but I think deep down inside, I think, you know, putting him in right now would be a shock to a lot of people more than anything. And look, you're talking about one of the bigger Shane Douglas fans out here. Shane Douglas was good, man. Very, very underappreciated. I'm a little surprised how underappreciated. You know, the guy actually worked pretty good. You know, in the 94, 95, he actually was pretty good. I mean, put it this way, when he was doing the franchise thing, nobody, even early days of the internet, you know, nobody would say, this is franchise. He fucking sucks. Nobody really said that. He was one of the early guys that would call out WWF and WCW. You know, you didn't really do that ever, you know, in the early to mid-90s. He was one of the guys to do it, so it kind of rubbed people the wrong way as well. But he was good. Shout out to Anthony Alston. DT Hope all as well. Why do you think Taz didn't work as a wrestler in the WWE, especially after that amazing MSG debut? Well, probably timing. You know, I mean, injuries didn't help. I think the problem with Taz was he came in 2000, if I remember correctly. And he came in right before WCW went out of business. And, you know, he was a small fish in a big pond already. Now now with WCW closing down and WWE has the capability of bringing anybody they want. Obviously, the bigger contracts sat out and took Turner money and didn't go there for a little while. But Taz became a big fish. Taz was a medium-sized fish in a big pond before WCW closed and ECW closing. Once WCW and ECW closed, he went from a medium fish in a big pond to a medium fish in an ocean. No longer was he having that value. You know, it was very cool to see him as a WWF wrestler taking on a WCW wrestler, as in Mike Awesome, in an ECW ring, which was history at the time. You know, when Mike Awesome was still ECW champion, but Taz, unfortunately, injuries and, you know, WWE's roster expanding tenfold made him kind of, you know, ordinary. Kind of ordinary. And then Impact TNA started in 2002. And then, you know, you had that. He ended up going to Impact. And unfortunately, injuries made him focus more on broadcasting. But I think Taz has had a good career. Taz has had a good career. I still remember the days of the Tasmaniac. The Tasmaniac. Rocky Red, I don't know anything about Jonathan Majors. Is that the guy that jumped the judge? I don't know who Jonathan Majors is. Elaborate, and maybe I'll know what it is, by the way. Eric, shout out to Eric. What do I think the storyline with Truth and the Judgment Day goes? I think I'm one of the first to kind of say it's recycled bloodline with Sami Zayn. I think the Judgment Day are going to start embracing him. And I think Damian Priest might play the role of Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso. One of the Usos. I think Damian Priest is going to become an Uso. And R-Truth is going to be the Sammy. And everybody in the Judgment Day is going to be kind of at odds with R-Truth, but somebody is going to start feeling a little sympathy for him. And then somebody's going to do something to R-Truth, and I think that's where Damian Priest might say, hey, stop. He's a Marvel actor. I have no idea who that is. Jonathan Majors, is that who? I have no idea who it is. Drunk guy is drinking non-alcoholic beer. I like it. I like it. Mika. What's up, Mika? What do I think of Jade Cargill versus Trish Stratus at Mania? I don't like it. It's not at Mania. Jade Cargill, listen, there's two ways of going with Jade Cargill at Mania. She could squash someone, or she can have a real big competitive match. I don't want to see Trish giving the rub to Jade Cargill. It's not necessary. She gave it to Becky, so to speak. I don't think Jade Cargill should wrestle a WWE Hall of Famer. Jade Cargill needs to fight somebody of today. That's what I would do. Down the line, if you want to go that route, you can. But I think Jade Cargill right now needs to face somebody of today. The only thing you got to think about is, let's see if she debuts at the Royal Rumble. Look, little teaser here for those that are interested. Actually, I'll reveal something now. Kevin and I are doing Royal Rumble predictions, preview and prediction show on Tuesday, January 23rd, a week before we officially return on Monday nights. We may open this live stream open to everyone on Tuesday, the 23rd, as a test run. You know, usually when we do special episodes, we record it live for our Patreon family and then we post it public for everybody. We may actually open it up to everyone on Tuesday, the 23rd, as a little test run to make sure that everything is smooth on Discord. So look out for that. In the next week, I will definitely update everybody again. I got to talk to Kevin about that. But look at the coin. Look, I have AJ Lee in the poster. I have Jade Cargill in the poster. Not saying that AJ Lee is going to debut. By the way, did you see Mercedes Moné at TNA Hard to Kill yesterday? She was there sitting in the rafters with Bayley. You know, obviously, Trinity, Naomi, is pretty much done with Impact Wrestling now. So you know Trinity in the Royal Rumble is pretty much a lock. Now you got to start thinking to yourself, wow, very interesting. Mercedes Moné at TNA Hard to Kill, hanging out with Bayley, hanging out with Trinity. Maybe Mercedes Moné hasn't locked the deal with AEW yet. Man, if Mercedes shows up at Royal Rumble and works out the legalities with WWE, because remember, 99% of the media out there, when they talked about the WWE Mercedes negotiations falling apart, they didn't tell you that it was about her brand. They just said that she wants record money. I can't publicly rip that apart because I'm not an everyday journalist. And there's some people out there that are very, very hardworking journalists that I don't want to disrespect. But if she works out a deal with WWE, that's because they were able to dot the I's and cross the T's. Her wanting to keep her brand outside of WWE is not two pieces of paper. All right, let's work it in the contract, and that's it. There's a lot of legal shit that gets involved. A lot of legal shit. And there may not be enough time to do that before the Royal Rumble. See, with CM Punk, it's a little different. CM Punk don't have an outside brand. You know, we have Mercedes with the Monet stuff. We don't have Punk Pence. And I don't mean Mike. I mean money. Punk pennies. Like, you're not going to have CM Punk, look, check out my brand, Punk pennies. You know, like, CM Punk doesn't have a brand outside of wrestling. You don't have, do I have any ice cream wrappers in front of me? Like, yeah, I do. Like he's not going to market his own ice cream. Smells like vanilla. CM Punk doesn't have a brand. Has nothing to do with owning his name. It's a brand. It's a brand. If CM Punk had a brand, you know, Mercedes' last name is not Monet. Mercedes is her first name. CM Punk is not even his real name. It's Phil Brooks. But what I'm saying is that Mercedes wants a whole line of Mercedes Monet, her a line, you know, her, what was the word that I used? Her brand. She wants a whole Monet brand outside of wrestling. And with WWE, you can't just say, okay. It's not how it works. But man, if WWE has someone working, you know, overtime to get this fixed or ironed out with Mercedes, and she returns at the Royal Rumble, oh man, are some people out there going to look stupid. But hey, we'll see what ends up happening. So, all right. Checking the chat, seeing who hasn't asked a question yet. Glenn Rossi, what's up, Glenn? What would the women's championship look like for WrestleMania 40? I would not be surprised if we see Bayley versus Io Sky for the women's championship. I'm sorry for licking my finger. I'm drinking hot chocolate. I'm not drinking coffee, by the way. For some reason, I don't know if anybody ever noticed this. Like I have an Ember mug that keeps it at the same temperature, like 145 degrees. When I have coffee in the Ember mug and it's a full blast, 145 degrees, it's still piping hot. It tastes great. You drink hot chocolate at 145 degrees and it's like warm. Like I'm like, this feels cold. Did anybody ever notice that? Like if you drink hot chocolate and coffee at the same exact temperature, hot chocolate tastes warm and coffee tastes hot. I know some people say, well, it's the milk and everything like that, but the temperature is like, I could chug it. I can't have Bailey's. I'm on keto still. Yeah, it may not look it that I'm on keto, but, you know, I gained a few pounds during the holidays. More probably for laziness and a little bit of sadness, you know, just laying around and not like doing much than anything else. But, you know, now it's turning the corner a little bit. Michael Gonzalez is, I think Bayley and Io Sky is definitely a possibility. Definitely a possibility. Some people think Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley, that's the match that WWE is kind of like keeping on the back burner. So, I don't know how I feel about that. That may leave Bianca versus Jade Cargill. I think we're going to get 4 women's matches at WrestleMania, minimum of 4. Kabuki Warriors may end up getting a title shot at Mania. Michael Gonzalez, is there a Rumble match that I go back and watch every year? Yeah, the one that Ric Flair won. So many Hall of Famers. So many little storylines that if you watch the match and you weren't a fan at the time, or if you didn't revisit those years, some of the storylines don't really matter all that much. But that's a fun one. I mean, there's many, many Royal Rumbles that are fun. There's so many. Was it really ever a really bad Royal Rumble? I mean, the finish might have sucked kind of. Shit, even when Vince won the Royal Rumble. Vince is funny. Did anybody ever notice, like, when Vince won the Royal Rumble and he climbed the top ropes and he started drinking the beer, he drank the beer like a dog drinks a bottle of water. You ever take a dog, like a bigger dog, and you just take a bottle of water? I'm not saying it'd be cruel. Take a bottle of water and you just like pour it in his mouth, and the dog is trying to like eat it. He's like, if you look at Vince drinking the beer, he looks like a dog being fed water. He's actually biting the beer. He's like, it's funny shit, man. But, sometimes Royal Rumbles get overproduced, but the Flair winning the belt, that's the one I think that'll always be my favorite. It's just fun. It's even Bobby Heenan on commentary. Yes, 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 yes. Even when Ric Flair came out at number 3 and you heard that cowbell ringing because they didn't have entrance music during that time. And he's like, no. That was awesome, man. Bobby Means, what's up, Bobby? Could we see a mid-card title for WWE Women's Division? If so, like to see a Women's Intercontinental Championship? Nah, not right now. You got to bring back another championship for NXT's Women's Division. Maybe the tag titles. Rhea Ripley having that belt right now really exposed the weakness of the Raw Women's Division. And the sad thing about it is you look at the Raw Women's Division and it's not weak. There's enough top names there that can go. But WWE's purposely put Rhea in this position to come off, like larger than anybody else. They talk about Rhea's dominant year. I fucking think Rhea Ripley is the top woman, active woman right now, not named Charlotte Flair or Asuka in the women's division. Bayley's up there, Bianca's up there, Becky is up there, Io is up there. I mean, there's so many. But, Rhea is near the top. But they've purposely kind of weakened the perception of the Raw women's division to make her look even stronger. Add another title to that? Oof. Not right now. I'd like to see something added for NXT, though. Those women need to be able to gun for something. Breakout tournament is nice. Trophy is nice. Number one contender battle royal is nice. But Lyra's got the belt right now, and there's no other belt to go for. Gabriella, what do I think the outcome of Seth versus Jinder will be tomorrow? What will all the Tony Coke drama on social media last week? Well, yesterday I got into like a 20-minute rant about Tony Khan and the Jinder Mahal stuff. Definitely check it out. Seth Rollins will win. It'll be a fun match. I wonder if Indus Sher comes out and kind of like tries to get involved, and then maybe, I don't know, maybe another tag team, the Creed brothers, come out or somebody to like neutralize them. Seth is winning. Tony Khan, I don't want to get into the whole rant again because then I'll be 20 minutes with it. All I'll say is, my summary of yesterday is that for people, and I notice it with legends in wrestling, that podcasts, whether they wrestled or they own companies or they manage people or wherever they were in the world of wrestling, I think they always try to talk on both sides of their mouth by saying, I think Tony is a good guy. And I really like Tony. And I really think that Tony's just in a bad position. After all of these years, no, Tony is a rich, petulant child who grew up on the message boards, who grew up hating WWE, who grew up loving video games. I think people forgot about Billy Mitchell, who I like, but Billy Mitchell with Miro and Kip Sabian and certain rappers being there, to appease some of the people that work in AEW. And he is a message board, rich, petulant child, that has billions, that actually went and started a wrestling company. His persona is not going to change. When he listen, I got a wake-up call. And I'll never forget it. When I caught him in the lie about his mother, I didn't think he intentionally lied, but he was in the hospital with his mother. And he was saying, I'm getting phone calls while I'm in the hospital. WWE's telling my wrestlers to leave and come work for us. That happened weeks before. And sometimes when you look back, and I'm defending Tony right now when I say this, when you look back a year, you don't remember every single day of the week. You kind of like summarize it together. So Tony, looking back a year ago, it all felt like it was happening at the same time, but it wasn't. And how dare you, you evil bastard, Don Tony, you fat Italian fuck, to call Tony Khan a liar. I posted it with proof. And I had the IWC and podcasters going after me like I just fucking, I don't even want to say. I deleted it. I'm like, oh, fuck you. Seriously. That was my wake-up call. Like, man, fuck you all. I do my own thing, and I don't have to, like, I'm not going to make bullet points on social media anymore so somebody could say, yeah, you were right. No, I'll do it here. I'll do it here for the people that matter, which is everyone here, Patreon, DonTony.com, DTKC. As long as you guys know, And eventually, when Kevin and I go back to doing shows and we start putting clips on YouTube of our conversations, people are going to start realizing a lot of truth medicine, and they're going to realize how much bullshit they're being fed to others. Tony Khan is one of the biggest wrestling fans you will ever meet. And we are using him because he is wasting tens of millions of dollars because he loves wrestling. He wants to fulfill his fantasies. He wants to have his fantasy matches. He wants his favorite wrestlers to be able to be his friend. He wants to hang out with them. He wants to feel like he is the good guy in the world of wrestling. When he says, I'm there fighting for the promoters of yesteryear, the fuck is he talking about? But you have all these legends in wrestling that talk out of both sides of their mouth because their audiences are not 100% against Tony Khan, and they're not 100% in favor of Tony Khan. So they want to go hardcore against Tony Khan, but they got to remember, there might be a third of my audience that pays me money directly or through ad revenue. So I'll open up by saying, I think Tony just is overwhelmed. I think Tony just has a lot on his plate. Nobody ever says that about his work in Fulham. Nobody ever says that about his work with the Jaguars. Nobody ever says that out in the business world. Only people with podcast and media where they need to make money off of it say it. So Tony Khan knows exactly who he is. Tony Khan don't need Tyler Bate in the coffee shop with oat milk and coffee to say, Tony, you need to find your identity. You need to remember who you are. You've kind of like lost the trail, and you're kind of like getting caught in a. No. Tony Khan is a billionaire wrestling fan who never grew up. He has smarts, but he's a baby, and that'll never change. He could be 50. He could, like I said, he can have a lot of things change on him. I don't want to get, into asshole territory right now. Tony Khan, what you see is what you get. What you perceive is what you get. I talk to people that I'm friendly with that work in AEW. And without getting too deep, what's Tony Khan like? Well, I really don't mingle with him that much, but he comes off as a really nice guy, just very, very, like soft. I will tell you this, nobody says to me, he's an asshole. Nobody says to me that Tony Khan is an asshole. Tony Khan has lived his life behind a computer. He's lived on message boards. He's lived under fake posting. There's a lot of people, just so you know, there's a lot of people that believe that Tony Khan back in the day was under a whole bunch of alias names and used to curse out WWE fans and used to say some really nasty stuff towards others. And to the point where he would praise his own posts. Like Tony143 wrote, I think Samoa Joe should win the TNA title. I think he should beat Kurt Angle. And then John316 says, yeah, Tony, that's really good take. Meanwhile, it's him complimenting himself. I have no proof of it. But back in the day, I've been in the message boards too. I was Don Cornelius. So whenever I admit it now, I don't care. I was Don Cornelius. When people used to say this motherfucker Don Cornelius, who is that? I'm going to strangle him in the throat. That was me. I was Don Cornelius. And then I ended up being Don Tony. So Dream 101, thank you for the 2-spot Dream. We don't always see eye to eye, but I'm a huge fan. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Anytime we talk about shit here, not saying for anybody to agree with me or disagree with me, we just have a discussion. However you take the points, you go. I just try to give my perspective of it. For some reason, a lot of you seem to enjoy it. So as long as you keep tuning in, I'll keep banging it out. But remember, in 2 weeks, the day and time may change. I don't want to give away where this poll is going right now, but make sure you vote, because you're going to dictate Friday, Saturday, or Sunday where this show goes starting in 2 weeks. No, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. because we'll start the week after the Royal Rumble on whatever night it ends up. But the voting is still very early. So it's not running away with one. There's one that's kind of in the lead right now, but that could change very, very quickly. So, and it's happened many times in the past. Thank you, Les. He says, love, peace, and cannoli. See, you got to, I just said I was Don Cornelius. What did Don Cornelius say? Peace, love, and soul. That's what it'd be. And I used to do that too. I used to say some awful, nasty shit to people, and I would finish it up by saying like love, peace, and soul. Go fuck yourself. All right. Mika heard a rumor. Brock is going to help Roman Reigns at the Rumble in the 4-way. Oh, wishful thinking. That's not happening. We're only 2 weeks away from the Rumble. We want surprises. We like surprises. I mean, AEW got a little bit too much with the surprises, which is fine. WWE has kind of slacked off with the surprises. I mean, The Rock has been pretty much the surprise for the last 6 months, 8 months. You know, the Royal Rumble will get the Andrade surprise, I think. The Trinity surprise, more than likely. Then you got to start thinking of others. I know there's some people out there like, oh, Sean Waltman. I would like to see Sean Waltman in the Royal Rumble, but he ain't winning nothing. He ain't going to go 45 minutes. He shouldn't. Like, oh, nice. But then you realize, oh, he's kind of like taking a spot. You know, we want surprises that we're going to be like, oh, shit. Kevin Nash showing up years ago out of nowhere was fucking great, and it carried on. So we want surprises at the Rumble. I'd have Brock Lesnar as a surprise. We're only 2 weeks away. Why reveal it now? Like, they sold the tickets. Everybody's tuning in. CM Punk and Cody Rhodes are the odds-on favorites. You don't need to sell the Royal Rumble. This is not a year where we look at the Royal Rumble like, you know, this card is kind of weak. I don't know if I really want to see it. No one is saying that. You know who says that? People that you can never make happy. So Brock, I would put him as a surprise. Now, for all we know, Monday, tomorrow night, we'll hear, do surprises. More the merrier. Omas, I would be fine as a surprise. Okay. Zimpulse. What's up, Zimpulse? Do I think Jacob Fatu will ever make it to the WWE? Never say never. The problem with Jacob Fatu, and this is nothing against Jacob Fatu, like, just because he's a Fatu doesn't mean he should be there. Solo Sikoa, there was something special about Solo Sikoa. And I'm not saying that Jacob Fatu is not special. But Solo Sikoa was kind of like an undiscovered, like kind of like hidden gem. You know, will he main event one day? I doubt it. But he was someone that could mold into what WWE wants. I think the problem with Jacob Fatu is when you see him on the outside, like you say, oh, he looks like he's one of the Usos. He doesn't dress exactly like them, but he kind of looks like he's doing their gimmick already. So people see it and they're like, oh, he should be in it. But I think there's a lot less that you could build on him. Like, I could see him getting involved somewhere at some point, but it's not like, oh, he fills a void. Jacob Fatu does not fill a void. And if he does, I would love to know what it is. Solo Sikoa, it was different. You had the brothers. You split the brothers up. Now Solo, you can have so many different dynamics with it. Now you had Jacob Fatu, and then you got 4 in the bloodline, and everybody else is 3. You know, we've been pointing out that WWE has been kind of like the year of the faction. You look at the Bloodline. You look at the Judgment Day. Now you got the Final Testament. And then you're going to have the Pride. And then you got Alpha Academy. And then you got, I mean, all these groups are like 3 people. You know, sometimes 4. But the reason why the Judgment Day is 4 is because Dominic, you can't just have him by himself. And plus, ultimately, Damian Priest is going to be out of there. You know, you do have times where the Bloodline have 4 people in it, not named Paul Heyman, and then you got to kind of make adjustments. In fact, the Bloodline technically had 5. The Usos, Solo Sikoa, Sami Zayn, and Roman Reigns. But for the most part, they're focusing on kind of 3, sometimes 4. Jacob Fatu does not fill a void. Some people, listen, Chris and others are saying Jacob Fatu would be a great fit for WWE. I'm not saying that he's not. Just what would be the purpose of bringing him in other than that he's related to them? You know, like, I appreciate Rikishi, and I'm very grateful of the entertainment he's given me in the past. That motherfucker, like, literally tried to get himself in this storyline more the ways than one, and WWE never brought that to the table. They never brought, you know, that aspect to it. Jacob Fatu is an unknown for 96% of the WWE universe out there. What void does he fill? He's a great talent, but what void does he fill? Remember this. I think people forget this. Solo Sikoa, for quite a while in NXT, he did not have a gimmick that was anywhere reminiscent to a member of the Usos. The fans would acknowledge that he was their brother. But Solo Sikoa, in the early days of NXT, they were trying to pretty much make people forget that he was related to the Usos. And then slowly started to change. Who hasn't asked the question yet? Tristan is asking, do I think Seth Rollins and CM Punk is a modern-day Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels because they hate each other in real life but still work with each other? No, because the anger towards CM Punk and Seth Rollins, there was a lot of issues, but it was different reasons, different anger, and it was more about business, and it wasn't real personal. Yeah, I know there's things said about Becky, but my point is, before CM Punk was brought in, they made sure that things were ironed out. CM Punk and Seth Rollins in the WWE does not want fans to know that things have been smoothed out a little bit between the two. The more you think these two guys still hate each other, the more you think that, somebody may sneak a little potato in there, or, oh my God, when these guys cut promos on each other, it's going to get real deep. And, they're not going to make the Sunny Days remark. Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart was totally different dynamic. I don't compare the two at all. Totally different. Death Gears, isn't Jacob Fatu doing the same thing Solo is doing, wrestling like Umaga? Somewhat, but again, Jacob Fatu fills no void. For a little while, people thought there should be a female in the bloodline. And the problem is, like, what does the female do? Like, when they were feuding with Kevin Owens or feuding with Sami Zayn before he joined the bloodline, or feuded with whoever, there's nothing for the female to do. Yeah, you could say now with the Judgment Day, that person could go up against Rhea Ripley, but the Judgment Day are not feuding with the bloodline. Jacob Fatu, for me, does not fill a void. If you bring him in, you bring him in because he can work. But to just throw him in the bloodline for what? For what? What is that? If you want to put him in there because Roman is not around, all right. But he doesn't fill a void. Maggie, what's up, Maggie? What do I think about the rumors Big E makes his return at the Rumble? Shit. I've been saying that since Ridge Holland did what he did in NXT. I think there could happen. Fingers crossed. I think putting Ridge Holland in that storyline where he was injured, the difference is now is he's going to wrestle, I think, Joe Coffey on NXT. I want to see what they do with Ridge Holland. Are they going to do something where Ridge Holland is intentionally trying to injure people now? I think if they do that, Ridge Holland got death threats. What happened with Big E? When Ridge Holland had that match with Ilya, they made it worse, but it was intentional this time around. You say to yourself, my God, how could WWE do that to Ridge? He was getting death threats before. Now people want to legitimately kill him. There's got to be something where Big E may be coming back. That's what I've been saying for, about a month now, and I'm sticking to it. It may not be Royal Rumble, but I think intentionally having Ridge Holland injure someone in storyline, I think that's leading to a Big E return. We'll see. We'll know in 2 weeks. Jay Carlos remembers me from NXT. I remember DT from XPW. I never knew his name. I was like 10, and I hated him as a kid, but I used to call him Cannoli Guy. Oh, he's talking about me. Yeah. That's cool. That is very cool. I will never forget XPW, man. That was a fun time, man. Fun time. So many stories coming out of that. That was fun. Just really, really fun time. I mean, yeah, I mean, what happened with Rob Black sucks. I wish things would have been a little bit different. They could have, definitely given CZW more of a run for their money at the time, but there was so many people against him. Then he had that controversy with the movies going across state borders, and that's federal crimes. And yeah, it was something that should have been bigger and wasn't. And it's sad now because XPW came back, and there was some people that really were willing to do work to try to get them, a little bit. And you see now it's like, unless you're like sticking 900 forks in your head, like nobody cares. I don't want to say nobody cares, but it doesn't have the vibe it did in the 2000s. It just doesn't. It just feels like, oh, let me bring back hardcore wrestling because I think I can make a little money off of it. And yes, you could. That's the same mentality in 2002. But in 2002, ECW had closed up. So that was kind of like a good time. Like, hey, if I can have a little bit of ECW with an XPW touch to it, then maybe I could attract both. See, I know I get a little cocky at times, but it was me in 2002 that when XPW was coming to Philly, it was Hostile Takeover. It was XPW taking over the ECW arena. Shane Douglas led the way. But what I wanted was West Coast versus East Coast. That would have put a totally different dynamic because you got Cali versus Philly or New York. That's different, especially with the gang wars and the hip hop artists. You think of all the, I know there's still a lot of shootings and a lot of killings these days, but you go back in the late 90s, early 2000s, East Coast, West Coast, I wanted to go more that route, but they wanted it more XPW and ECW kind of like, but then they brought in Joey Styles as a commentator. Doesn't sound friction when and I love Joey Styles, my favorite commentator of all time, arguably, because man was so smart, and he's the only person I know that could do it by himself and keep it interesting. He commentated. So there's no West Coast, East Coast, because Joey Styles is commentating. It's like, oh, well, there goes that. But, who am I? Even now, 2002, this is Fat Italian Hotline host giving us ideas. So Okay. Gary Richards. Does The Rock show up at the Royal Rumble? Huh. I don't think so. CM Punk has been confirmed for the Elimination Chamber, which is very interesting because people think Punk is winning the Rumble or the Chamber. That's what a lot of people think. So now Punk confirmed with the Chamber, people is now, I bet you those betting odds start going towards Cody again, even though they're not that far off from CM Punk. But Roman Reigns, the only reason Roman Reigns should show up at the Rumble is if he's going to be involved in WrestleMania. You know, Roman taking on the Fatal 4-Way, it's just to give the perception that Roman could lose the belt without being pinned. That's what this is, period. And what will happen is, listen, you know what's going to happen? And I every time I say this, it happens. What's going to happen is Randy's going to hit an RKO or LA Knight's going to hit a blunt force trauma. I don't see AJ with just a phenomenal forearm because that's kind of the weakest of the three, with all due respect. But probably Randy with the RKO or LA Knight with the blunt force trauma, they're going to nail it, maybe even on AJ Styles. And Roman could simply throw the motherfucker outside the ring, or Solo throws that person outside the ring and Roman steals the pin. That could be the scenario. I don't see The Rock getting involved with that. I just don't. Just because The Rock made the remark, should I sit at the head of the table? You know, that doesn't mean it's going to happen at this Mania. We'll see. We'll know in 2 weeks, and then we'll talk about it. Believe me, when Kevin and I do the preview and predictions, we will definitely come up with some scenarios about The Rock at the Royal Rumble. So, all right, we are at 72 minutes. I think we're going to start wrapping this up. I don't want to go overload with this. We did a banger of a show yesterday. We went 2.5 hours. The discussions were so strong. I think in the last 3 years, yesterday's show was my top 10 favorites. When I don't normally, when I finish a show, say, oh, it was a pretty damn good show. I mean, when we used to laugh a lot of shits and giggles, sometimes you finish the show like, man, that was a funny fucking episode. Like that, or that was an intense debate. Yesterday, I finished the show and I was like, yeah, that was actually good combo. Especially talking about everything with SmackDown, with the Last Testament, the Pride, and all the other things we were talking about yesterday. So definitely check out that episode. We got into some good shit. Look at the synopsis from yesterday. We got into good shit yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was unintentionally. What impersonation I do yesterday? I know I did Kermit the Frog with, oh, the fabulous Mimi, yay! But I did one other one that I don't think I've ever done. Was it Tyler Bate yesterday with the oat milk? I never ever I don't know what it was yesterday. It might have been Butch. But again, I'm fine with the Pete Dunne name returning, but Butch doesn't need to find his identity. Triple H does. Bringing a name is fine, but if 2 months from now he's getting squashed, come on, it's like the Gunther Walter stuff all over again. And we talked yesterday. They bring him back to Pete Dunne. It's like another fuck you, Vince. Fuck you, Vince, for the Butch name. Fuck you, Vince, for the Max Dupree name. It's kind of like Max Dupree. The difference is the whole crowd is going, L.A. Knight. Yeah. What are you going to do with Pete? What are you going to do with Butch? He's going to come out there. You're supposed to go, Pete Dunne. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's no catch for it. He's going to come out there and people are going, Pete Dunne. And then what? I want to see WWE push him. If they push him in more than 2 months, okay, I'm fine with it. But just changing the name so people could say, oh, there's another Vinceism that we don't have to deal with anymore. It doesn't really like help Butch in any way. Gary Richards wants to know, can William Regal show up on WWE television? He absolutely can. Yes, he can. It's 2024. William Regal absolutely can show up. In fact, I would not be surprised if we see William Regal make an appearance on NXT. Not necessarily with Charlie Dempsey, his son, but I think you can see him. Listen, I think we'll see William Regal at the Hall of Fame. Hey, I just thought of an idea. They never put William Regal in the Hall of Fame, have they? What do you all think? William Regal, Hall of Fame, class of 2024? What do you think? William Regal's not in the WWE Hall of Fame. No, I like Adam Pearce as the Raw GM. I think he's doing a good job. William Regal on Raw, nah, I think people say that because we love William Regal, and he did a great job in AEW. He would be a fun on-air character, but I don't think it's needed. Okay, let's do 3 more questions. Let's make it good. Then don't forget, tomorrow night we will recap Raw. I will tell you, as we get closer to the 29th of January, we'll start, figuring out, other shows and time frames. Like I said, the Don Tony show will still be around. When we need to do some special episodes here and there, I mean, they might be pre-recorded unless something big happens and we just want to hop on live, on a particular night, maybe a Wednesday night, some crazy shit goes down and people want me to hop on, and we'll hop on once in a while. But we're doing a show on Monday. We do Patreon on Tuesday. The sit down is either going to be Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. That should be enough for now. And believe me, I tell you, when we do Monday, the whole idea is to have everything banged out on Mondays. And then that gives me also a day or two during the week to put clips online. You see what a lot of podcasts do, especially on YouTube. They put it on YouTube because that's the only place where you can advertise segments for your show. So you see, every little thing, like so-and-so talks about this and so-and-so talks about the main event on Raw, and this person talks about eating donuts. Like every little discussion gets into a whole little segment, and that's to get people to tune into the whole full show. We don't do that. We haven't done it. I don't have enough time in a week to do that, but now pulling back on a show or two will give me that time. I'm telling you, we'll be back in the top 10. But sometime before 2024 is over, you will see somewhere we'll have that thumbnail. We're in the top 10, and it won't be photoshopped. All right, 3 more questions. Number 1, Michael Gonzalez, any update on Giovanni Vinci? Yes, he is okay. He, from what I heard, had a slight concussion. They did concussion protocol and he passed, and they wanted to keep him off for a week or 2. I think he is still definitely possible for the Royal Rumble. He wouldn't have to do much in the Royal Rumble. And I'm curious if they're going to have him and Ludwig Kaiser against each other at some point. We may see Ludwig eliminate Vinci or vice versa. We could see something with Gunther. I don't know if Gunther's in the Royal Rumble or not. We might get some update on that tomorrow. But Vinci's okay. Just as we talked about yesterday, Austin Theory is okay. Carmelo Hayes was never injured yesterday, but they gave an injury update because they didn't want to separate the two. They wanted to make it seem like both had a scare. So Vinci's okay. Brock has never won the IC title. Could I see him have an IC title run? Bobby Means thinks so. I don't see Brock around long enough to have a run with the title. I don't think Brock Lesnar says to himself, I haven't won the IC title. That would really further complete my career if I win the IC title. If he's back on a semi-regular basis, then I say yes. I think Brock versus Gunther at Mania is still a big possibility. And man, could you imagine if Brock beat Gunther at Mania in like a minute or two? You know, like people still hate WWE for what they did to Kofi. You imagine if Brock beats Gunther in 2 minutes? I don't think it would happen, but I could see it if Brock is going to be back on some type of a semi-regular basis. If WWE could work out something contractually wise with Brock, where he appears even every other week, doesn't have to wrestle every other week, but if Brock is going to be around much more, then I say yes. But I just don't see that right now. Does Ron Neal look like Butch? I don't know who Ron Neal is. I'll Google it after and see. And with that, we're done. No, we'll do one more question. I don't want to end. People be like, Ron Neal. I don't know who Ron Neal is. There's probably 1,000 people that are going to say, DT, you don't know who Ron Neal is? I'm not as up on the times like a lot of you out there. I got to be honest with you. You know, I get into these little drabs where it's like, you know, work, family, shows, eat, sleep. Work, family, shows, eat, sleep. Next thing you know, 6 months go by. Jey Uso versus Gunther at the Elimination Chamber. It's not a bad idea. Believe it or not, I actually would like to see Sammy and Gunther at the Chamber, but I haven't thought about my Rumble predictions yet, but for a while I was thinking Sammy's going to win the Rumble. But I also thought that Drew would be champion, because I think ultimately if Drew becomes champion again, whenever that happens, I think Sammy is the one to take it off of Drew McIntyre. I think it only makes sense. I think Jey Uso, as of right now, I will tell you this thought about Jey Uso, and so far, up until today, that hasn't changed. I think Jey Uso's in the final 5 in the Royal Rumble match. I think the final people in the Royal Rumble match are going to be Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Jey Uso, who else? Sami Zayn, and I don't know the other one or two yet. But and it's interesting because everybody I mentioned just now is a Raw guy. You know, so Randy Orton is not going to be in it. He's got the main event match in the 4-way, so you can't count Randy. LA Knight, originally I wanted LA Knight as one of the finals in the Rumble, but LA Knight is now in the Fatal 4-way. So he's not in the Rumble match. AJ Styles not in the Rumble match. And no, this is not a case where they could fight Roman and also be in the Rumble. That's not happening. All right, one more question. Bronson Reed versus Gunther at the Chamber. I think Bronson Reed will have a spot in the Elimination Chamber. I think he has a lock for a spot in the Chamber. Bronson Reed at last year's Chamber did a great job. You know, that, I don't want to say it was his breaking out party, but Bronson Reed did a decent job last year. Unless I'm remembering otherwise. Wasn't Bronson Reed in the Chamber? I remember Bronson Reed right around Chamber time. I was like, man, he did a pretty damn good job. I think Bronson Reed is going to be in the Chamber this year. It's in Australia. He's got to be in the Chamber. In fact, Bronson Reed, you know, and it's going to be really interesting because Bronson Reed is going to get cheered big time. So, I don't know. Maybe Bronson Reed does take on Gunther. You know what? That, the more you think about that, that could very well happen because Gunther as the evil heel and Bronson Reed in his hometown, that could very well happen. But I kind of think Bronson in the Chamber might be a better fit. But Bronson versus Gunther would be fun, man. I mean, I know we've seen something already, but I think that would be fun. All right, I'm going to jet out of here. So I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. I'm looking at my notes. Somebody just sent me this. Listener, Okay. This really isn't much. I'll tell you what this is. I'll show it on tomorrow's show. But Brian Last, Jim Cornette's co-host, who I think is cool. Somebody from the Chartway Arena sent him a copy. This looks too perfect. You know what? I'm going to put this on the screen. I'm going to put it on the screen. Everyone bear with me. For those in audio only, this actually will be worth talking about. I personally find this paper, let me put it this way. I find this paper a little too perfect to be real. Let me show everybody what I'm talking about. Let me put this here. Okay. Let me now, hopefully, if you're on a mobile phone, the print might be small, but I will describe what you're looking at. Yeah, here we go. Somebody sent Brian Last this. And it's got let me explain what this is. This is what Brian Last wrote on Twitter. A listener who worked the AEW Collision taping yesterday sent this along. And it says banned signs listed at the bottom. I was told CM Punk signs were also confiscated. Now, it's a paper, and I have to describe it for my audio only family out there. It says on the top, what's going on, with a question mark, and it's got a screenshot of Collision, like a banner for Collision. Then it says show schedule. Doors open at 6, Ring of Honor taped at 7, Collision live at 8, Battle of the Belts live at 10, show ends at 11. The mods are Matt Drexler and Brett Shaw. And then it says event-specific information. Now, is this something that's passed out to all the wrestlers? Maybe. But it seems a little bit too perfect. This is what it says. Reserved seating. All seats are reserved. Most seating is on the south and the east side. Section 101 to 103 have a few tickets out that are show comps. There will be a few people with green wristbands in Section 101. They are seat fillers and escorted to seating areas needing filled. They have no privileges for any other area. So obviously, as I'm reading this is something for people that work, I guess, around the building during the show is live. No one should be in Section 104 except for the show personnel. East Elevator is not for guest use tonight. Floor access and seating. 7 sections on the floor. No one on the floor unless they have a floor ticket. If a guest is needing floor access to get to their seat in the bowl, please use best judgment and allow them to do so. At the end of the night, we can let guests egress once the floor is clear. All right. So now we get to the bottom. I guess this is where it gets, maybe newsworthy. Backstage areas and access. The Big Blue Room is being used as catering for tonight. Only the Southwest VOM should be used for floor access. VOM. Big Blue Room, Southeast VOM, student entrance, East Lobby, all considered back in the house tonight. All personnel, including building staff, needs the proper credentials to go backstage. No one should be backstage unless they are working. Do not use North Hallway as a cut-through. Pictures and recordings are permitted. Signs are permitted. No profanity, graphic images, oversized or derogatory signs, no blank signs. No sticks or poles. No signs mentioning Kylie Rae, Chris Jericho in a negative light, Chris Jericho and Kylie Rae. And Chris Jericho's name is spelled wrong. There's no H in it. Honestly, this paper looks real. It's obviously meant for people that are working the arena, I guess, with seating and just looking out for stuff. Is it really news that they don't want derogatory signs to Chris Jericho or Kylie Rae's name mentioned? I don't think that's news. I think that's common sense. Kylie Rae, you don't want to do that anyway out of respect for her, right? Everybody's supposed to respect Kylie Rae and not put it out there. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think that's a big deal. It's not as controversial as it sounds. Expected attendance, 2,700. So in hindsight, do I think this is real? Absolutely yes. Do I think it's a big deal that they just don't want any Jericho, Kylie Rae signs floating around? No, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it's a big deal. And let me say this. I'm not defending Chris Jericho. If anybody heard my rants over the last 2 weeks, you know I am not defending Chris Jericho. But I will say this. We will not know what is true and what is not. I said on yesterday's show, Tony Khan keeping the wig and the glasses on was a huge... It's not even a mistake. It just shows how dumb he is and how immature he is. Like something as serious as a sexual assault or attempted assault allegation, you know, you keep the clown wig on. You might as well, like I said yesterday, remember, I might as well go to a funeral wearing these glasses. Hey, everybody, I thought I was at a party. You know, like, how do you like not have the wherewithal? Like, hey, there might be some female out there that is very, very triggered by this. Let me like look in the camera and look in the eyes, whether the story is true or not, and say, listen, as far as I know, this is not true. And I don't want to address fake rumors. Chris Jericho, there was never a denial, but there was never an admission either. I don't know what is true. But I certainly think, you know, you don't want it to gain traction in your building. You know, people are going to do it just to trigger an emotion. So honestly, I would not have signs out there. I wouldn't. You know, I mean, if you're going to put a sign like that out there, then put a sign about Justin Roberts and put a sign about this person and put a sign about that person and put a sign about everybody who's been accused of something in AEW. You know, I just don't know what the truth is with Jericho and Kylie Rae. I will say this. If Jericho does not sue Nick Hausman, that'll be really, really telling. And I know what some people are saying, and yes, I've heard the podcast from other Hall of Famers that Nick Hausman probably has nothing, and that's why Jericho won't go after him. No. I think if Jericho goes after Nick Hausman, the truth has to come out. The truth has to come out. Under oath, I think the truth would have to come out. Jericho may have to admit, listen, we were hanging out, we were having drinks, and, you know, I just thought, you know, maybe we could, you know, be a little bit more, you know, personal. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but I'm saying, like, under oath, he may be forced to reveal the truth. It could also be revealed that nothing happened. If Jericho doesn't go after Nick Hausman, then it may be a case that Jericho, even if he hit on Kylie Rae, even if Jericho did nothing perverted, illegal, terrible, maybe morally wrong for some out there, you don't go after an, you know, approach an employee. I get it, you know, but isn't Jericho married? So Jericho may not go after Nick Hausman because he doesn't want to be forced to reveal to his wife that, hey, I was alone, I was lonely, we were talking, we were having a couple of drinks, we were really getting along, and I just thought, you know, maybe we can, you know, snuggle. You know, maybe he doesn't want that to come out. So I don't know if we'll ever know the truth. But it'll be really interesting going forward to see what Jericho does. By the way, Jericho could be the one behind this paper. But then again, I don't think he would spell his own name wrong. His name is spelled wrong a couple of times. Obviously, somebody told arena workers, no signs that have Chris Jericho and Kylie Rae's name on it, or Jericho in a negative light. But all right, I think this is pretty much a nothing burger. But you know, with the sign yesterday, I think that's actually kind of smart on AEW's part. But we'll see if this story goes any further. Just pay close attention if Nick Hausman gets sued or not. Listen, I don't want to get into the whole Nick Hausman thing again, but I'll leave you with this. Something I said before, I don't think he's a bad guy. I think, you know, the CM Punk, Colt Cabana stuff got a little bit weird, you know, like how much that was a topic of his conversation, you know, but accusing Jericho of Harvey Weinstein, I don't think Nick Hausman has a clue what Harvey Weinstein did. To use that that is outrageous and stupid. Stupid. Flat out stupid. If you want to say something like, no wonder why Chris Jericho was such a supporter of Vince McMahon. Okay, that I can accept. But Harvey Weinstein, if any of you don't know his deal, go look it up. That's pretty fucking wild to go that far. And you see what kind of traction it got. That goes to show you, and I'll leave you with this, that goes to show you that you could have Vince, I'll do it. You could have Vince Russo, Eric Bischoff, Jim Cornette, Brian Last. You could have Dutch Mantel, his co-host. You could have all of these Hall of Famers doing podcasts and say, Nick Hausman, he's a nobody. I'm not dissing Nick Hausman, but you could have them all say this. That goes to show you that even somebody this big that has some type of a following can say something and it blows up like a giant snowball, like an avalanche. Somebody that everybody says, oh, who is he? He said, nobody. Look at the damage that somebody this big could cause. That's why you got to be fucking careful what you say. You can express opinions, but you better be very, very careful, because when you go into territories like bringing up something like Harvey Weinstein, he's got to be shitting bricks right now. I don't even do that. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Much love. Make sure if you are up Monday night after Raw, join me. We got 2 more Mondays where it's just you and me and the family. Then the 29th of January, Kev Castle comes aboard. We shoot on over to Discord. The Discord channel is up. So if you haven't registered yet, dtkcdiscord.com. Very, very easy to remember. You could chat a little bit there. I'm still ironing out some things here and there. We're making sure that everything is smooth. And the Royal Rumble preview and predictions, we may do a test run live just to make sure that everybody could hear us. And I mean, we use the channel already for Patreon. So my side and Kev's side are good, but we want to make sure that everybody can navigate there. Austin Nance, Guardian of Chaos, OTS Tribal Queen, you are welcome to run the ship there like you do here. And I think it'll be even easier there because there's all these verification things that you got to do, and we don't have to worry about bots. And if anybody tries to, think that they're going to screw something up because we're taking listeners or viewers away from another podcaster on Monday, it won't work. It'll backfire. So, and thank you, Jay Carlos, for that. It'll pop up on the screen as we're going off the air. Much love, Jay Carlos. And as I said earlier, want to give, in addition to obviously our made members of the family here on YouTube, big shout out to these very special patrons. They are truly the head of the table. Some of these names that you see have been on our Patreon since 2017. I mean, it's humbling. And I'm not trying to like separate every patron in them, but that group of people have really, really helped us. Not just support, but financially, because this shit could get very, very, that's why you see so much clickbait going on out there without getting into a whole thing. That's why you see so much clickbait, because people out there, they've decided this is their living. And when you start getting hit cred-wise and people start, start to buy into your shit, and then they start realizing, hey, I'm kind of like not feeling what this person is doing, then you got to resort to desperation. Then you got to resort to clickbait. And then you got to put catchy little thumbnails with phrases that make you think one thing, but it's really about another thing. And, that's what you got out there. When Kevin and I return, not saying that I'm not trying to do it now, but now you got Kev's side of things too. So we bounce discussions off of each other, and you'll realize very quickly, why you're getting what you're getting out there. I'm really looking forward to it. So I hope you have a good rest of your evening, and I am going to jet out of here. You'll be well. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.